Welcome, my friends, and this is not a Gump Report. This is a review of GCW not Golden Age, game-changing wrestling's closing match of their pay-per-view Homecoming. Matt Cardona versus Nick Gage. Now, Nick Gage will be appearing on Dynamite tomorrow because this is being done on Tuesday, and I do have my thoughts about today. I may have said and more of my thoughts on Matt Cardona and Nick Gage, but you'll find out in a minute. I won't be talking too much about this video. Not this video. This is kind of awkward for me because I'm going to be saying something about myself. And I always say enough and I can't stand it. But still, I got to do it because I did promise. Alright. Matt Cardona doing a match with Nick Gage. And I believe it's a death match. Now, I've never seen Nick Gage much because, well, that's not something I usually see from the indies. If his stick is real super hardcore wrestling, working with actual things that can cut you open, because I did check a match with him before this because someone, who was it? Someone had talked about it before. You know who you are. And he said that Nick Gage is awesome, the way he works. Now, here's the thing, guys. I'm the type of person that likes matches that are balanced. Gimmick matches are okay when they're in the right context. And from what I can tell, because this is the second match I've seen of Nick Gage doing extremely hardcore. I mean, he could easily have been in ECW and could have easily worked with Terry Funk, being as hardcore as he is, if he was into blood and into doing what he was doing. Or Mick Foley, for that matter, because Mick Foley did a lot of death matches in New Japan. I believe he went to New Japan Pro Wrestling or All Japan Pro Wrestling. I can't remember which promotion he was working in. And he would do a lot of death or bleeding matches or barbed wire matches. Nick Gage would fit in. Flat out, let's just be honest there. Now, do I like those type of matches? Not all the time, no. Not that I'm squeamish about blood. It's just... And I'm not trying to piss anybody off. Gimmick matches like that should only be used as a very rare occurrence, and it should be connected to a very good story. That's how it used to be. There used to be a spectacle whenever they would use. But now when it's done a commonplace, it can be very mundane, very boring. And I know people want to say, dude, are you crazy? It's awesome. No. Understand my words. How things used to work. In some cases, particularly that we get everything bombarded at us all the time, does not mean it's better. Think of it like this. Eddie Murphy doing his stick in his special called Delirious. He talked about how he has the same, why he tried to explain why men run off and do what they do two time in women. If a guy has been trying to be with this woman for so long, and she had been playing hard to get, and it's not his wife or anything, just someone is ready to give it up to him, and he hasn't had it for months upon months upon months, and when she finally gives it to him, he thinks it's the most best thing since sliced bread. But here's the thing. When you're with this woman long enough after that, and you get the same piece of sliced bread with no butter, no jelly, no nothing, most men just say, I got just ordinary sliced bread. I get this all the time. That is what a death match or a barbed wire match or a tables match or a ladder match is like. You get the same thing so many times. How many times can you change it up? Not everyone can. Now, from what I can see, Nick Gage, he's using actual pane glass with actual fluorescent lights, the long version, not the light bulb, but the long fluorescent lights that go up in the ceiling. I can't say that he does this absolutely every time because I've only now seen 2 matches. So I don't know. I can't really just say, well, this is the same thing over and over again. It's so fucking stupid, like some people would. Sorry for the language, but you get my point. I have not seen enough of the guy and the type of matches he does. I don't know if this is just a rare occurrence with him or it's constant. If it's constant, I gotta say that how many times can you do the same thing with pane glass and a maybe barbed wire and maybe with a fluorescent tube light, not bulb light. It really depends how much he changes it up, and also depends on the fans. Now, they were in Atlantic City, not far from my stomping grounds when I was a kid. So this kind of had a little nostalgic kind of feel, because I had two uncles, granduncles actually, my mother's uncles, and I was a little kid, and I knew them only as my uncles. I didn't know they were my granduncles. They lived literally 50 feet away from the boardwalk. No, 10 feet away from the boardwalk and 50 feet away from the ocean. So if they were one of the casinos, that's basically where I grew up at one point as a kid. So the nostalgia for that made me really feel like it meant something. The fans. And I know one of my subscribers said, dude, you got to describe how bad the fans acted when they saw Matt Cardona win. Now, here's the thing. Was it a good match for what it was? Well, see it like this. If Nick Gage does this all the time, then he's the way he always is. The person that made this different was Matt Cardona. Matt has never, in the years he worked in the WWE with Edge and Brian Myers, has ever been seen to do something like this. Ever. Yeah, he's bled a couple of times. He's been thrown off of a stage by Kane, but no one has ever seen him literally do a death match where the motherfucker bleeds. And he bled a lot. He got shoved straight into a pane glass. If it was real pane glass. From what I was told, it was. And I said in my comments, this is a very interesting thing, and I'm sure they tried to make sure it's safe, but this is actual glass. And no matter how safe you try to be, there are dangers that you could literally cut a nerve and forever not feel something, or you can cut your arm wide open, and worse yet, you could almost lose a finger, lose a toe. Something could go straight in your eye, or get jammed into your neck, and you will be laying there paralyzed possibly. That's one of the dangers of doing these death matches, particularly if Nick does it all the time. It is incredibly dangerous. And a lot of people get a thrill out of it, similar to, let's put this in a historical perspective. Long ago, before 10 times your family was born, if you go back to Rome, when they did the gladiatorial games, at one point, they didn't let the gladiators kill one another because it cost a lot to get them trained. But to have them against regular people, or to have regular people get eaten by tigers, lions, get sliced up by gladiators, because no one said gladiators can't kill regular ordinary people or prisoners who have not been trained. It would be exciting. Seeing blood is exciting. UFC is loved not just for the martial arts, but for how the person gets beat, or how they break their bone or make them bleed their ass off. It is something people enjoy. They like to see blood. So in this situation, was the crowd really into it? Yes, they were. And were they mad as fuck that Matt Cardona won? Yes. But I gotta say this in disrespect. The one major problem I had was the commentary team, because the commentary team, it wasn't that they were lying about Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder being who he was, being a WWE former wrestler. It was that the commentary sucked. Yes, they said who Matt Cardona was. Yes, they were very colorful when they were cursing their ass off like I have been. But if you're going to compare them to the commentators and taking away the cursing, understand the cursing's not the issue. It has never been an issue. Hearing a commentator curse, either they block it out or they let them do it on a pay-per-view. That's not the issue. The issue is whoever these commentators were, they were not good. They sucked. There was very little explanation what was going on in the ring from them. They were more concerned about how angry they were than actually giving their, not just color commentating of how the match was going, how Nick was really trying to get up with it, how Matt was doing. Literally, it was all about them and how angry they were and how they wish they can kick someone's ass at one point. Now, that's not everything, but they did it enough that it threw me off. For me personally, You need three elements. Three. The match itself, the fans, and the commentators. If one of them is off a lot or enough, the entire match will feel a little off. And it was with them. So for me personally, those guys were throwing me off. They just sucked. They did. I liked them cursing. And to a certain extent, they did do enough to keep me at least decently invested, but they sucked. The match was what it was. It was a death match. There was a lot of blood. There was there was interference from some people outside. Since I don't know the storylines that's going on in GCW, I don't know. I think those were I think they were Nick Gage's own guys that he knew, because he didn't really attack them. He got them out of the ring. No, I mean the reverse. He was up against them. My mistake. Haven't seen it since yesterday. But essentially, these guys did get inside. They, to a point, interfered. And Nick Gage ate three fluorescent light fixtures and then was done. Finished. He lost. Nick Cardona, not Nick. I'm combining Matt and Nick. I think the reason that I'm botching here is, what does this really mean for Matt Cardona? Will he bring that title to Impact Wrestling? Because that is something I'm curious about. I'm sure Impact may say something about Matt Cardona and he now being a GCW champion, maybe. If they don't, it's not really going to be really good for Impact Wrestling, because it should mean something that Matt Cardona should be processed. He just did a death match. And honestly, that would really help his cred in Impact Wrestling, because they're really not doing much with him. They're not. Yes, Chelsea Green just joined them. I'm sure they're going to work together, but honestly, they need something more. Something that can make it very interesting, where you can bring in a Brian Myers into GCW, which could help them as well. That he could be his partner, or he can also be an opponent. On GCW, you can have Brian Myers as a face, because Matt Cardona is considered a heel in GCW. You could do something between GCW and Impact Wrestling. Let their title be seen. Let the information, maybe the video, to be seen as well. At least 30 seconds of it without too much blood. I'm just saying. I don't know what they're going to do this Thursday on Impact. Only thing I'm hoping is that they will add in what he's now done. He's a guy that normally doesn't do those type of matches, and he just did it, and a lot of people are going to give him a lot of respect and praise for it, which he deserves. Do I like those type of matches all the time? No. Do I appreciate them when they're done right, with a good storyline, with the right people who can do it? Yes. Now, since I don't know GCW, I can't say this was a good storyline or not. If this went with storyline, or was it a good one? You guys can say what you feel. For me personally, I'm just seeing for the match itself. And I don't know if this was done right. But I do understand why Nick had to drop it, because it was about to happen on Dynamite tomorrow, because he is going against the Painmaker, Chris Jericho, and I don't think they want to make him drop his title. I do agree with JD, because he did talk about the match on one of his videos that I did watch, and I do agree with him. They don't want their champion to job to another promotion. That's the reason why he had to drop the title. So the question is going to be, what is Matt Cardona going to do with the title now? Will they show it on Impact or not? I hope they do. And I hope they show at least 30 or 40 seconds of the damn footage. If they don't show the fucking footage, but they let him be known that he's a champion, Impact is a fucking stupid promotion. Not that they're working together, but that they need to acknowledge that he's done it. Okay? That's how I feel about it. And I hope you enjoyed this review of Matt Cardona versus Nick Gage. Give me a comment below. And now that it's done, oh, here's things going to make me feel awkward. Okay. All right, guys. This is the deal. The video is done. If you don't want to see the rest of this, because I am going to talk about my own self, you can just flip it off. It's cool. But here's the deal. You see a guy who is not Zane now, my actual self, Efren. I don't normally use my actual name. I don't use my government name. But today I got to, because today is my 50th birthday. It's weird. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. After the stuff I've gone through over the last 20 years, I'm shocked I'm alive. I've gone through a lot of mess. Possibly almost getting beaten to death by twice the same gang in New York, meeting a couple of members of the gang, and then being in a car where a guy literally was on the back bumper being stabbed almost to death. He did survive. I don't know how. He got beaten up and he got stabbed 10 times. No, what was it, 8 times? But he lived supposedly. I met the same gang twice. Never tried anything to bother them, but I've survived that. I've survived a bad marriage. Very bad marriage where I could have ended up in jail for 6 months because of the condition I was in. I could have easily ended up, well, a little more than 20 years. Easily, like I said, ended up dying because I tried to commit suicide once back in 98. That was 22 years ago. No, 20, yeah, wait a minute. 98, 23 years ago, my mistake. I'm bad with numbers. And a lot of things has happened to me. A lot of stress. But I'm still here. Now, for anyone that's 20, 30, 40, or even 50, look at this ugly face. Look at this face. This old ass man with bad crooked teeth because of wisdom teeth, who's balded out, and who has depression, anxiety, and is always scared about something because of the depression, anxiety. He's still here. And it's not an easy thing, but I'm alive, I'm well, and I have my moments where I don't want to do anything, but I give my best. I really try my best to do what I can to be me. Hell, I will leave a connection below to one of, well, how can I explain this? As some of you know, I have a second channel where I do animation. I made an dance anime using a DJ scratched music. Yeah. Yup, I'm not kidding. Real DJ music that he was doing a scratch test on his new turntable, and it's there. And I'm not kidding. If you heard it, it's all scratch. So if you want to look at that it's not too great, but it's not bad either. It's one I still was working on. But that's what I'm doing. And I did say this, that I would explain about the near commit suicide. And like I said, it doesn't bother me like it used to. It used to, but I'm not the same person like I was 23 years ago. So I will explain now if you want to hear this story of me almost jumping off of a... I'll explain. In the 90s, now in 97, I got married. No, sorry. How can I explain this? It was like I got married in 97 when my son was born, but I actually got married in 1995. I didn't fully understand my marriage until about 97 and 98 when my son was born. In 98, it was one big hot mess. My wife at the time's older sister was living with us. Her own son was living with us, where he had hearing problems. She was pregnant and she liked to go party. And she would just leave her son and not let him be with his dad. Then her younger sister had 2 kids and we had to take care of them. And she herself, at one point, had a nervous breakdown and lost her memory. That was later, in almost 98 to 99. But in between that time, our relationship was a huge mess. I can easily say she was a bitch or something like that, but honestly, we both had problems. It's easy to say, out of anger, that your ex-wife or your wife at the time was treating you bad, she was beating up on you, which she was. She was pretty abusive. She used to hit me. She used to kick me, and I would never touch her because I don't want to hurt a woman. That's just not my personality. The most I ever did was just grab her behind the neck and hold her. That's it, and that was once. I never punched her, never kicked her, I never shoved her, other than shoving her back in her chair once. But violence, no, I just couldn't do it. But there was a point where we were taking care of all the kids, her younger sister's kids and her older sister's kid, because eventually she had her daughter, and she was taking care of that child, but we were still taking care of her own son and everybody else's kids every night for 6 months. No rest. They expected it. I worked over 10 hours a day, and I was up most of the night with her, our son, her older sister's son. And every day for 6 months, that's what we did, having screaming kids with each other, just angry at everything. Eventually reached the point where it broke me. I didn't know how to handle it. At one point, I was supposed to shave because of this ugly mug of mine. I wanted to shave some of the whiskers off my face, and I looked at the razor that I had. It was just a disposable one. I was ready to cut my wrist. And I started to cry. My ex-wife my wife at the time, walked in. She saw me, smacked me in the face, and said, "Please, I've done worse than you." Because she actually did. She liked to cut herself. It was because she was unstable. But she smacked me in the face and said, "Please, I've done worse than what you're about to do. Whatever." Then I tried to say, "Honey, stop. Look, we can work things out. It's okay." She didn't care. She was unstable. She was not herself. So, I think it was the next day. We were still not talking much. We were still taking care of all the kids. And I told her I was going out for a walk. Because we had an argument within that same hour that I went out. So where I was living in Manhattan at the time, it was, if anyone's been in Manhattan, because I lived in Manhattan at that time in 98, there was a parapet, like an overpass for the trains that went between the Metro North and what was it, Metro North or the LIRR? Yeah, the Metro North. The Metro North to 34th Street, because in New York, you have two trains that go out. You got the Metro North to 34th Street and the LIRR, which is the Long Island Railroad, the 34th Street. The one where I was living nearby was the Metro North, and it was an overpass. It was like a little bridge that you can walk across, or at least look, because there was cars nearby. And you could look right over the rail and see the tracks. And I was standing there because there were some seats nearby. And at that moment, I was just not really thinking of anything. But then I noticed I was trying to climb up the rail, the guardrail to keep you from falling over. And I was maybe about halfway up. I almost put my leg onto the edge of the top and almost jumped off. But I made halfway up and then I stopped. I don't know why. Because I really wasn't generally thinking about anything but just, I'm tired. Then I walked over to the benches that was nearby, maybe about 5 to 8 feet away, I think. I sat down and I started to cry again. And for me, that was one of the two rare moments of my life that I felt that there was someone watching. Because at that time I was trying to become a Jehovah's Witness. Because that's what her family was. Her mother was a Jehovah's Witness. Her older sister was a Jehovah's Witness, even though she had a child out of wedlock. And she was going to study to be one, so I expected I should be one as well. I didn't follow my own way. Now I do. I follow Native American beliefs. But that was one of the two times I believed I was being watched. Because I could have been dead already 23 years ago. So it was a very hard thing at that moment. Because the very thought that went from my head, the very thought, if anyone's ever seen the Cosby Show before Bill Cosby was known to be nasty. Was it that or was it Static Shock? No, Static Shock came out in 2005. It was the Cosby Show. Because I think there was one episode where someone said, it takes more strength not to do the act than to do the act. That's the thought that went in my head. And honestly, at that moment, I thought, after that, that's such a crock of shit. That it takes more not to do it than do it. But now that I think back at it, because I don't really have thoughts of suicide like that. So, it's true. It does take a lot more not to go and do it. Because in the end, you don't have to think about anything else afterward. You're done. You stay, you're going to be thinking about it all the time. And it was a lot to think about. Because after that incident, no, not incident. After that incident happened, I was not right. I was not right for at least 6 months. Because I was so depressed and frustrated. My own boss where I was working noticed there was something really wrong with me. She called me into office for something. And it wasn't for that. But she was concerned. But she didn't really mention it. But she called me to office to get something done. But while I was there, I asked, is it possible to get a transfer? And she said, wait, you want a transfer? Yeah, because I said at that time, because she did call me office for something. I can't remember what it was. But I was going to go in there anyway. And I told her, I just want to transfer away. She said, are you all right? Do you need help? Do you think you're going to hurt yourself? And I said, yeah. I literally said that. She went, because the door was open to her office. She closed the door. She called 1199 because that is my union at the time. And she said, I have someone here that needs assistance. I'm going to send him. And that is when I went down to my my union office. And I had to go and see that, because she made it very clear. I want you to go to a union right now. Don't worry about getting paid today. I want you to go and talk with them so they can get you someone to help. And I said, it doesn't matter. She said, yes, it does. To me, it does. You're a valued worker and you're a friend. And she sent me to my union where they had me lined up with a group therapist, which I did for several years, which it didn't help all the time because I was still in the same situation, at least until 11 years ago when I couldn't work anymore. I was still on and off the same until I was forced. And I want to make this clear to anyone that this is very important to understand. A lot of times, you never truly face your problems until you're forced to face them. Very rarely people can do it because sometimes they notice, but they don't want to do anything. In my case, it's hard to explain this, but I never faced what was in front of me. I always put something in front of me, like work, marriage, child, trying to please my girlfriend, trying to please my wife's friends, everyone. I tried to make everybody happy but myself. Whatever made anyone else happy is what kept me from dealing with my problems. And not until I fell at work 11 years ago, because I already had a pre-existing condition with my left hip, did I have to face myself. And for the last 11 years, that's what I've been having to do. I was 39 years old when this situation happened. I had to think about it. I'm an old man. Old men have bad memories. But 11 years ago, when I was 39 years old, I had a bad relationship. I had no money. And my leg was still messed up. Well messed up. So for me, it was not easy. And for the last 11 years, I had to struggle. I've gone to the hospital multiple times because of something connected to my problem with my leg, or my health, or my stress of my depression, anxiety, particularly what's happened with the pandemic. So it has been a hard road. I never expected to make 50, and I'm glad I did. I may still have problems. Let's make this very clear. I'm still going to have problems. I'm going to have some problems. But this is my life. I'm proud of myself, at least as much as can be expected in this hot room. Oh my gosh. It is warm in my room right now. I have the door closed. There's no fan on. It is warm. So when you see this sweat, it's because my room's really warm. But this is my life. It's not easy, but I'm very thankful for it. I'm happy I'm still here. I'm glad the Great Spirit didn't let me die yet, that I can still learn. But that's just me. And I know this is a very long-winded video, but people did ask about it. And they also asked for the match itself. And I didn't think it would make any sense just to make them separate. So I thought I'd make it in one video. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and give it a like. Maybe somebody would like to see this old nutty ass man. I don't know. Peace.